Do you know that the miraculous revival fluid in Dr. Stone could actually be fatal if used in real life? And that you could lose your mind and go crazy if you took his antibiotics? Here are some inventions and discoveries from Dr. Stone. Let's see just how scientifically accurate each of them is. We'll sort them into levels, starting with the first level 1 invention on our list, the revival fluid, or Nidal. In the anime and manga, Senku prepared it using 70% alcohol and 30% nitric acid. Although it exists in the real world for metal printing, the ratio of nitric acid is kept as low as 5%. See, ratios of nitric acid above 10% when combined with alcohol become highly explosive. Now imagine it at 30%, and you'd be surprised our mad genius scientist is still in one piece. The only explanation could be that the acid is extremely diluted. Senku's gunpowder, on the other hand, is precisely accurate. He uses the same ratio of the elements, sulfur, charcoal, and saltpeter, as one would in the real world. The only difference is that our boy knew it could become a warfare weapon, whereas the Chinese monks who actually created it were trying to create a life-extending elixir instead. The irony. Although Senku's cola is identical to the recipe disclosed by the Coca-Cola company, the history of its origin differs quite drastically. Recreated with carbonated water, honey, caramel, coriander, and lime, our hero invented it to offer gratitude to his friend because, well, let's admit it, what better way to say thanks than a bottle of Terry sweet champagne? But cola hasn't always been used to express gratitude. In fact, it was initially invented to counter drug addictions. Did not expect that, did you? Moving on, Senku's recipe for glass, powdered silica burnt with 20% seaweed and 10% calcium carbonate, is still accurately used in chemical industries. Created about 4,000 years ago by Mesopotamian craftsmen, it wasn't used to make optical lenses until the 13th century. It's safe to say that our boys squeezed some 3,000 years of human history with Suika's melon glasses. Next up is one of the greatest inventions in human history, paper. With Senku's recipe, just find some grass and boil it in sodium hydroxide. Then wash it, press it, and dry it. Boom! Congratulations, you've made paper. It may sound absurd at first, but this is exactly how paper was originally created by Egyptian craftsmen about 5,000 years ago. One thing that was wrong about this is when Mecha Senku suggests boiling bleach as an alternative to sodium hydroxide. Boiling bleach would inevitably end up producing chlorine gas, a deadly weapon of chemical warfare that can burn your lungs and result in fatal suffocation. Yikes. Now let's move on to our level 2 inventions, starting with the legacy left by Senku's father, the glass bottle record. As simple as it may sound, carving a record is not easy, considering that Byakuya managed to do it without many resources. Nevertheless, it is possible to make a record out of something that's not vinyl. In the real world, it is possible to create a record out of any flat, carvable surface. In fact, records have been made out of wood, acrylic, paper, ice, and even chocolate. After an attack from Tsukasa's empire, Senku's army decides to arm themselves with the traditional Japanese sword, the katana. To make strong and durable blades, the heated metal needs to be folded over 20 times to remove impurities. However, due to time constraints, Senku's katana is only folded twice, so clearly they may be weak in comparison with the real deal. This makes us question how his men even stood their ground against Tsukasa's Herculean army. Moving on, we have the man-powered electrical generator that marked the beginning of electrical power used in the Kingdom of Science. Comprising 2 copper discs and a strong magnetic field, the design does seem rather plain. In reality though, it is based on Michael Faraday's homopolar disc that marked the invention of the earliest electrical generator back in 1831. So it was Faraday's genius that helped Senku win over the entire village. Yet another incredible invention is the light bulb. Although the methods used are 10 billion% on point, Senku gives Thomas Edison a little too much credit for the invention. In reality, the first light bulb was invented 77 years before Edison started experimenting with its filament. However, Edison did invent the roasted bamboo filament that Senku uses in his light bulb. Moving on to Senku's novel method of warfare, the flash grenade. In the anime, he uses seawater to obtain a mixture called bittern, which includes various magnesium compounds mixed with salts. He uses an electric current to obtain pure magnesium from it, and later uses it with his tungsten light bulb to produce a blinding flash. Although flash grenades aren't made this way in the modern world, magnesium is still largely obtained from seawater and has the ability to burn with bright, blinding flashes. Let's raise the bar and move on to Senku's dynamite. Ever wondered where the infamous Nobel Prize came from? Alfred Nobel was a Swedish chemist who invented dynamite using nitroglycerin and powdered shell, exactly like Senku. Initially created for construction purposes, his dynamite was quickly abused as a military weapon. The guilt-stricken inventor then dedicated all his wealth to the inauguration of the Nobel Prize. In the anime, for this reason, Senku credits him for raising science to unimaginable heights. Alright, now we're moving on to the highest level of inventions on our list. Level 3. After the man-powered electrical generator, Senku uses the water wheel built by Kuromu and Kaseki to make the stone world's very first hydroelectric power generator. Senku's masterpiece uses the mechanical energy generated by the water wheel to bypass the use of manual labor and provides consistent production of electricity. In the real world, the oldest water wheels date back to the Roman Empire in 4 AD, though they were used for milling grain at first rather than generating electricity. Senku's lead-acid battery is based on the 1859 model by the French physicist Gaston Palanté. It even uses the same Leyden jars that the scientists originally used to make the world's first rechargeable battery. To recreate it, Senku fixes 2 lead plates, suspends them in sulfuric acid, and joins the adjacent cells with wires, replicating the original model accurately. The only difference is that Senku's battery generates enough electricity to make an X-ray out of the curious Ginro, something that the original battery could not have achieved given its limited capacity. Moving on to Senku's blast furnace. Its initial version uses air bellows to raise the temperature of burning wood to 1500 degrees Celsius. Given that this isn't practically possible to achieve, it adds to the humor how hard those with brute power had to blow into these air pumps. The final upgrade to the blast furnace uses energy generated by Senku's hydroelectric power plant to automate the air pumping labor. In modern day, this mechanism is used exactly like this, only that the use of air pumps has been replaced with upgraded bellows called tuyers. The gas mask may not seem as hefty and eye-catching as the steam engine or the telephone, but they are equally as important in the story. Senku uses activated charcoal in his masks, which would theoretically absorb the poisonous gases looming around the sulfuric acid lake. The method may sound absurd at first, but Senku's masks are based exactly on the 1915 charcoal gas masks that were used in World War I by the Russian army. Next up on the list is perhaps Senku's greatest invention in the show, the sulfa drug that saved Ryui's life. Though the drug hasn't been used in the past 50 years due to its severe allergic reactions, Prontosil, the original sulfa drug, was once the treatment of choice for pneumonia and throat infections. In rare cases, it causes psychological issues, including hallucinations and psychosis. The only fact that the anime does not comply with is the original color of this drug. It is shown to be powdery white in the anime, whereas it stains deeply reddish in reality. In fact, when the original inventor of this drug used it to treat his daughter's throat infection, the color was strong enough to dye her throat permanently red. Based on the model of the 18th century's original steam engine, Senku recreates the first ever means of transportation for the Ishigami village. His steam pistons are closely based on Thomas Newcomen's atmospheric engine of 1712, and the use of beeswax for casting iron subparts is based on the early 18th century method called lost wax casting. To say the least, his automobile is precisely scientifically accurate. The only problem arises when he upgrades it to a full-blown armored tank. Although ambitious, it's uncertain how a tank armored with nothing but wood and paper could withstand an entire bulky army. Although Senku did not invent our 21st century modern mobile phones for us, he did manage to invent a telephone in the stone world. Based on Alexander Graham Bell's 1900s model, Senku uses a vacuum tube to amplify the sound waves that are later received by an antenna at Taiju's end, similar to Bell's telephone. Although simplified, this is how the dial phones of the past worked, so even if it seems primitive, Senku's phone actually surpasses the Industrial Revolution. Though this isn't an invention, during the grand bout match between Megma and Kuromu, Senku makes some intense mathematical calculations to predict that it'll take about 60 seconds to burn Megma's clothes with Suika's glasses. Do you think he was correct? Check the answer in the first comment down below. Remember to subscribe, and thanks for watching!